guys, what's up? Thank you for being here. My name is Morgan. If you're new here, I'm a single mom with a chronic illness, and I make videos for you all on how I navigate life with my chronic illness, single parenting, and living on one income. So if you're new here, please subscribe. If you like the content, please like and comment. It really helps me out, and I'm super excited to be doing this video for you all today. In one of my last videos I did for you all, I talked about the timeline of my chronic illness and how it all manifested. In this video, I'm going to talk to you all about what I've done to help my healing journey, what worked, what didn't work, and how it's all going now. So the first thing that I did happened accidentally. It was out of my control and I was forced to move. And when I was forced to move, it became abundantly clear to me that for the last 6 months, I had been living in an environment where mold was present. That was also the timeline when my symptoms were exasperated, when everything that I had been told to do was no longer working or improving my life, let alone maintaining my quality of life in the least bit. When I was forced to move out of our home, I discovered there was mold, and from that point on, it led me to a little bit more research. My mom has had an allergy to toxic mold, and I've had an allergy to mold throughout my life as well. However, I was not educated on the severity of the symptoms. I did not have an underlying POTS diagnosis when I had been exposed. So these symptoms that I was experiencing were brand new for me, and I attributed them to my increase in workload and a change in the weather. It was summertime, so I thought the heat was impacting me more so than anything else. Now that I'm out of that environment, I can tell you that is not the case. So after moving out of my toxic mold environment, getting rid of the toxic environments and the toxic people in my life was definitely the first step on my healing journey. You cannot heal if there are things in your environment still actively hurting you. That means your home or your family and friends and loved ones. When I got rid of the toxic people around me, it gave me a sense of peace. For a very long time, I was living under the impression that I was not enough. Before I was diagnosed with my chronic illness, I was a notorious people pleaser. I worked very hard. I worked 3 part-time jobs to put myself through college. And it took me 8 years, but I did it. I've worked overseas teaching English as a second language, and I've always been very ambitious and moved across state lines many times to pursue the careers and jobs that I was interested in. Prior to me becoming chronically ill, there was not one part of me that lacked ambition or discipline. There was not one part of me that was lazy. Once I started experiencing the symptoms of my chronic illness, it became abundantly clear to me that there were going to be people in my life, in my family, and my friends that were going to look at me differently. And I had to decide if I wanted to spend the energy constantly explaining and defending myself, or if I wanted to say, that's okay that you feel that way and think that way about me, we can end it here. And I had a lot of mixed responses to that. A lot of people have had a lot of mean things to say about me because I will not allow them access to disturb my peace. I will not allow their opinions of me to impact how I feel about myself any longer. I do not allow people in my life who say, "Why don't you just?" or "Why can't you just?" When I got rid of the people who questioned everything I did or why I did not do something a certain way, I found an immense sense of peace that I've not had in a very long time. My healing journey has not been linear. It will not be linear. So removing the people who questioned my every move and my every motive allowed me to heal in a way that worked for me instead of worrying about keeping up appearances for other people who were not directly involved in my life. Another thing that I did to help myself heal was I found where I was having the most trouble and struggles, and I broke down what I could do to improve that to the tiniest level. When I first got out of my toxic environment and started healing, I had the hardest time with going to stores. I live in a rural area, so for me to get to my local stores and shopping, it's about a 35-minute drive. And if I had a day where I needed to stop at more than one store, it would be very frustrating. I would drive all the way out there, I would finish up at one store, and I would get in my car to drive to the next. And I would become aware that if I didn't start driving home at that point in time, there was a very good chance that I was going to overdo it, and I would not be able to make it home. So I would have to ration my spoons, ration my responsibilities, and manage my expectations with myself. So once I started realizing that I was having this trouble with that type of stamina, I started practicing. I practiced driving for longer distances. I practiced sitting up for longer periods of time. And throughout that process and over the last year or so, I've been able to eliminate a lot of the overwhelming fatigue that I felt on a daily basis. I do still have overwhelming fatigue if I overdo it. However, I'm aware of what overdoing it looks like for me now, and I'm not constantly trying to please people by pushing myself to extremes that my body cannot handle. So by taking it slow and being patient with myself, I am now at the point where I can go out and complete multiple errands at a time. I can sit at my desk for a full work day without feeling overwhelmingly tired, and that's such a huge accomplishment for me. And once I started gaining confidence in myself and my ability to venture out into the world and hold intelligent conversations without losing my train of thought or losing my entire vocabulary, I enrolled in physical therapy. My poor doctor wrote my note for physical therapy probably about 4 to 6 months before I felt comfortable enough driving myself there, exercising, and returning back home. I am not in physical therapy for the CHOP protocol or a lot of the programs or protocols that people use to overcome their POTS diagnosis. I have not started that yet. Baby steps. So what I attend physical therapy for is for vestibular therapy and migraines. So since the beginning of November, it's now the beginning of February, I have only done exercises and conditioning for my neck and shoulder stability. Dizziness and vertigo was a really big issue for me, especially while I was driving. And so by working on my neck strength and my neck muscles, I've noticed that that is not as much of an issue for me any longer. I also am not able to take medications for my migraines right now due to so many reasons. That's a video for another time. So having a physical therapist who really knows how to work with me and help me has allowed me to get a lot of pain relief when it comes to migraines, and that's phenomenal. A lot of the exercises that I do are not standing, so it's sitting in a chair doing stretches. I do stand for one of my stretches at the very end of my therapy. However, if I go in and let them know that I'm having a difficult day, we switch that one and we do something else that's a little bit more accessible for me, realistic for me. So that is another thing that I've done that has truly helped me improve as well. Not only do I attend physical therapy, I also really make sure that I'm incorporating my stretches and my exercises at home at least 2 times a day. I usually try to come home and stretch after I drop my son off from school in the morning and at night before I go to bed. Sometimes during the weekend I can get in a little stretch during nap time or something like that. But making sure that I'm stretching has tremendously helped me as well. If you have an autonomic disorder, you know that you automatically carry a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders because we don't have the blood flow that everybody else does. So our neck and shoulder muscles get very tense very easily. So physical therapy alone is not enough. I have to continue to do the exercises at home as well. Another thing that has been a tremendous help for me is medication. And this one should be such a no-brainer, but so many doctors and specialists are unfamiliar with POTS, so they're a little hesitant to prescribe medication. For me, the medication that helped the most was Midodrine. That is a blood pressure medication for people who experience hypotension. I was prescribed Midodrine probably 3 months after leaving my toxic, moldy environment. I was prescribed Midodrine because my blood pressure continued to stay very low. It was normal for me to stay in the 80s over 40s, and that was something that was very uncomfortable for me. Anytime my blood pressure got any lower than like 90s over 55, I knew that it was not safe for me to drive. So I would make that decision to not drive because at that point in time, any small movement could cause my blood pressure to completely bottom out, and I can't take that risk while I'm driving. Initially, when I started taking Midodrine, I was taking 2.5 milligrams 3 times per day, and I noticed that it was working really well right when I took it. However, I would have points during the day where I was crashing out before my next dose. So my cardiologist very quickly adjusted it to 5 milligrams 3 times a day, and that was a sweet spot for me. Once I took Midodrine for several months, and once I got out of the toxic mold environment and started healing my body, it's like my body's kind of been jump-started a little bit, right? So the Midodrine really helped me and allowed me to function, and I became less and less dependent on it over time. So now I don't take it daily, I take it as needed, and that's usually when it's hotter outside or if I know that I'm going to be doing more activity or anything that involves me standing for a longer period of time. However, if I'm just at home, working from home, sitting in a chair, not really moving around too much, it's something that I don't need to take regularly anymore, and I'm very grateful for that. And finally, the last thing that I have done to help improve my POTS and my chronic illness is I have loved myself. I've leaned into my relationship with God, and when people are mean to me and when I don't understand why people don't view me the way they used to or why they don't remember me how I used to be, I lean into God, and I know that He has a plan for me. I know that He would not put me in this position. He hasn't put me in any position without a reason. And I've been put in some very difficult positions, and there have been some hard lessons to learn. And I feel like the days of learning the hard lessons are behind me, and the days of acceptance are where I'm at. I am sick. I do have something going on with my body that I am not able to control. I am God's child, and He loves me. If someone feels the need to treat me differently or terribly because of something that is out of my control and that I am actively working to improve on daily, That says so much more about them than it says about me. I've watched grown adults be so visibly excited to use my chronic illness as their reasoning for why I am not capable or competent enough. And if you are somebody who has held that opinion of me, I think you should honestly be terrified of the bounce back that you are seeing. Because the people who treated me terribly last year when I was at my worst, you cannot and you will not ever find me in that same place again. The person who you were able to treat like that does not exist anymore. I love myself. God loves me. He has put me here for a reason. And I fully believe it's because he wants me to share my story on how he came into my life and what could have been something that took me down permanently. He has just led me through with a tremendous amount of grace. And that is something that in hindsight, I can't put it into words. I can't really explain it. He just really had my back. He really had my back. I don't rely on people in the 3D anymore. I really put a lot of faith and trust into my therapist, who has been with me for over 3 years now. But other than confiding in my therapist, I don't share my problems with anyone. I share them with God, and he resolves them. I'm here making videos because over the last year, I've had a difficult time finding anybody to believe in my ability to be a productive employee. I've had a difficult time finding a job with a schedule that would allow me to attend physical therapy. And there have been so many rejections, and it used to hurt my feelings. I would get so upset. I know that I'm qualified. I know I'm educated, but I just know that God has something bigger in store for me. And he's shown me. He has shown me. And in order for those plans to be possible, we have to start somewhere. And this is where we're starting. I know there are a whole lot of you out there who feel like me, that have experienced a chronic illness and just felt like you don't exist anymore. And maybe you don't, because you exist better now. That version of you is dead and gone. You would not be able to understand the things you understand and have the empathy that you have now if you would never experience that type of situation, that turmoil, that test. So I think it depends on how we come out of our test. And I want to come out of mine as somebody who is able to recognize when another human is hurting. I want to come out of my test as someone who shows understanding when I see another person having a difficult time. And I want to be the person who raises my child to be that way as well. So maybe that's why we're here. It's hard to find your purpose with a chronic illness, but keep watching. Maybe we can figure it out together. If you're still watching, I really appreciate it. Subscribing, liking, commenting, it warms my heart. I comment back. I will always. I just appreciate you all for being here. Also, if you watch my content and subscribe, it does vary and it will change. Throughout the weekdays, my son is at school, so I have a little bit more time to sit down and do more lengthy vlogs explaining things like this. However, on the weekends, I really try to incorporate him in just about everything that I do because he is 4 and he loves that. So it'll be just a lot more of motherhood and what we do on a daily basis and how I accommodate our playtimes and things like that. Chuck E. Cheese is a big one. So I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.